the biggest news story of Christmas, and you as a former Nashvilleian, perhaps would be the best person to speak to about this. And that's that damn bomb that went off in downtown Nashville, injured 3 people, didn't kill anybody except for the bomber, who has literally been disintegrated. But yeah,
I heard they found pieces of him all throughout downtown, which is fucking crazy.
That's how they confirmed who he was. They very similar to the Oklahoma City bombing. I think they found a piece of the vehicle with a VIN number on it, and it was registered to this guy Anthony Quinn Warner. And even that becomes a thing on the internet later because Anthony Quinn Warner to crazy people online sounds like QAnon warrior. I saw that going around. They were like, dude, his name is Anthony Quinn Warner. That if you switch those letters around and ignore the fact that the last word has nothing to do with the word I'm going to replace it with, it sounds like QAnon warrior.
Well, dude, QAnon warrior. Well, also Warner Brothers is a studio in Hollywood pedophiles.
Dude, my friend Benny Bazuna used to have a joke. It was around probably 2012. It was right when I moved to LA, where he was talking about listening to election coverage and somebody just being like, I don't like Obama because I don't like socialism. Hitler was a socialist. I don't like Hitler. And this is Benny Bazuna. Give him a follow. He's fucking hilarious. But his joke was, he was like, if your political position can be attained through a simple improv game, it's probably not that well thought out. And I think about that constantly because that is the entire basis of QAnon is just people just
it's like you yes-anded yourself into fascism.
Yeah, they're just free associating words and stuff, and you're like, buddy, that's not how that works. It reminds me of those old. I think it's because people, a lot of them, at least that are our age, probably grew up watching those weird History Channel shows where it's like numerology in the Bible. And it's like, if you break down the book of Job to the numbers, then it spells out something about Charlemagne. And you're like, what?
Dude, I mean, it's like, it's all these boomers have free associated themselves into like paranoid fascism. Like that's how it happened, I guess. And really, who's really suffering from this the most is the greatest generation. They're dying in droves because of the boomers.
Yeah, man. Well, so, the bomb goes off. It fucks up a bunch of buildings. They fortunately were able to evacuate, I think, almost everybody. Like I said, 3 injuries, and I think a couple of them were first responders and stuff like that. But nothing major, except for, obviously, the guy who got disintegrated by his own bomb. So,
would it be like they found like one of his they found like a hand that was like 3 miles away, and they picked it up, and then they like checked its pulse.
Yeah,
and they're like, damn it, I don't think he's gonna make it. Someone call an ambulance.
They find a piece of his butt, and they're like, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
He's like, guys, are you responsible for the explosion? And then just kind of like meagerly farts. It's like. Not to speak ill of the dead. But my God.
Well, that's the fun thing about this one is like, well, it was just one guy who died, and he desperately wanted to die. So we can. This is the most lighthearted bombing we've had in years,
dude. To quote you from earlier, I'm not one to stand in the way of a good time. And if the guy wanted to vote, I mean, he also clearly warned everybody around. Like took links to make sure no one else got hurt in it.
Yeah, he was playing over the loud. He had put up a loudspeaker on the end of the camper and was playing the Petula Clark song "Downtown," and then in between had a what they described as like a female robotic voice. And it was funny because I was
oh, dude, have you seen the video of it?
Yeah,
it's so horrifying. It's like it is. I mean, because it's an empty street because it's Christmas morning, but I mean, it's so fucking scary.
Yeah, it's like some one of those like post-apocalyptic video games. It's like Fallout or BioShock or some shit where you're just
absolutely
it's just creepy and weird, But yeah, he had some sort of robotic voice, blaring over the loudspeaker, being like, "This is gonna blow up in 15 minutes" or whatever it said.
Oh my God.
Extra weird for sure, but they have started getting more details about this guy, the QAnon warrior, Anthony Quinn Warner.
Sure.
And I just wanted to share some of them because I think there's a lesson to be learned with this whole Nashville bomber thing, which is if your weird neighbor who's never spoken to you says some wild shit, maybe tell somebody.
God, it took me a minute to even register. That's like, oh yeah, all my friends live in Nashville, and then be like reconcerned.
Yeah, yeah, man.
But yeah, God, my friend Tanner works at a hotel that was like right near there, and he said he went outside like as it happened. Like he works like the night shift, and his ears were just like fucking ringing.
Oh wow.
You know? And but yeah, I mean he's fine and everything, but yeah, man, I mean it's a fine line to toe. When someone says some weird shit, it's like, am I being a tattletale or am I keeping a potential bomber from committing an act of terrorism? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, this is from the Daily Mail. Tom Lundborg was a teenager in the late 1970s when he worked under accused Nashville bomber Anthony Quinn Warner, who was a technician for a home security company. So right there, just like Dennis Rader, BTK also worked for a home security company. So immediately, those guys, give them a once over. So back then, Lundborg's father owned ACE Alarms, a firm providing commercial and residential burglar systems, but he was incapacitated in a car wreck. That left a young Lundborg and 20-something Tony Warner to run the business, and they drove to different sites to do burglar alarm installations. Quote, I worked with Tony as his helper. I kind of looked up to him. He was kind of a hippie. He had long hair, a Magnum PI mustache. He was smart, a cocky kind of guy. I rode around with him every day. During the summers, at least for a couple of years, Lundborg said that Warner disliked authority, loved smoking weed, and claimed that he had just gotten out of the Navy. Although they put in parenthetically that it is unclear whether or not he was actually ever in the armed forces. He might have just been saying that to sound cool. But he was arrested for marijuana possession in 1978. That is his one. That's his one little spot on the record and stuff like that.
If this guy gives paranoid old dudes who are stoned out of their brains all day a bad name, then I don't know. I feel bad about that then.
So this is the guy that worked with him. So he continues. He was a little guy. He was the silent type, but nice looking to girls. My dad would go to dive bars with him, and he was popular with the females in there. You could just tell. He didn't flirt a lot, but you could tell they liked him. Lundborg said that Warner had a girlfriend at the time and said that Warner, quote-unquote, betrayed his parents and started his own alarm company, taking an ACE client or two with him. But the business founder, Lundborg said, because he didn't have the personality to deal with the customers. So this guy tried to go rogue on his boss, tried to start his own company.
Oh, well, he's industrious. The guy seems, I think anyone who makes their own bombs would have to be pretty industrious,
So this is the last little part here, and this is what I was talking about earlier. So a motive for the bombing remains unclear, although investigators are reportedly looking into whether or not Warner bought into conspiracy theories about 5G technology.
Yeah, that's what I had heard, yeah.
The bomb went off next to the AT&T building. So, and legit, I mean, shit, dude, knocked out the AT&T service for most of all of Nashville, obviously, but most of northern Alabama, too, is, I guess, on that same grid. So I had a bunch of friends in Huntsville who were like, yeah, I didn't have internet for like 4 days.
Dude, like, same with my parents. My parents live in Chattanooga. They didn't have like phone service for a second.
Yeah, that's it's pretty nuts. But also, it's pretty nuts that you're like, yeah, I exploded myself into a million pieces. Why did you do that? So AT&T would go down for 90 hours.
Yeah.
And then continue moving along unabated forever and ever.
It's better that than to have the 5G injected into your eye.
That's
which
true.
Is which I unfortunately am going to have to do because I have to get back to a Sizzler at some point.
You gotta have them little tacos. They're so good.
They're very good.
You gotta have them little chicken wings that are maybe not chickens. They seem like they might be pigeon pieces or something.
Isn't that the conspiracy theory that like the vaccine's going to have 5G and it's also going to render us infertile? Is like not to propagate horse shit, but
yeah, I think that's part of it. But it's that, like I said, with the QAnon thing, it's like you just kind of plug in whatever fun theory you might have, and everyone will yes and you. People will be like, yeah, man, it is that, or maybe it's this, and then the other guy's so crazy, he's like, yeah, and then also this.
And this. It's a pack of this.
Yeah, it's a pack of this cigarettes. Yes.
Do you think? Yeah, it's like they're gonna open a barrel of vaccine and like Jimmy Hoffa's in there.
Well, I tweeted this earlier this week. I said because I literally saw a tweet, and you know how on Twitter it'll say like like it'll sometimes tell the device that comes from. It'll say like tweeted from an iPhone or tweeted from the desktop. It was one where it was like they want to inject everyone with a microchip so they know where you are at all times. And then underneath it said like tweeted from an iPhone, and I was like, you're holding the microchip that tracks you at all times.
Yeah, they already know where you are.
Oh my God.
I think this has blown a bunch of boomers' minds because they don't understand like the severity of being like constantly monitored. Like people our generation kind of already understand. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Like we understand that we are monitored at all. Like every transaction we make on the internet is well documented, and like they're just be like, "Did you know that you could be tracked anywhere, even to a gun range?" It's like,
dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I first got to town, like my first night here, my mom had made some chili, and I was like, "Oh hell yeah, I love it," you know. But my mom doesn't like spicy stuff, so she makes it pretty mild. So I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna see if there's any hot sauce." And I normally go Texas Pete. That's my standard hot sauce, and we didn't have any Texas Pete. What we had was Tiger sauce, which is pretty good.
Ooh.
And I think I said, I was like, "Oh, is there any Tabasco or Texas Pete?" And my dad was like, "Oh, we got Tiger sauce." And I was like, "Oh, Tiger sauce. Okay, I'll take that." And ever since that moment, I have had ads for Tiger sauce on every fucking thing I've opened. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Because they heard it on the microphone of me going, "Tiger sauce." And now they're like, "You want this, don't you?" I'm like, "We already have it. You're idiots."
Yeah, going with that theory, that's why I've been taking up the Vince Vaughn tendency of calling everything money. So I just said, I've really, especially now, I've been telling, it's annoying to Carly, but I'm always just like, this ham is money. This ham is $1 million. This ham is $2 million money. And she's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Shh.
Don't tell Alexa. We're going to trigger.
Yeah, we're going to trigger."
So Warner's neighbor, Rick Loud, told the Associated Press that he and Warner...
Smoking that Rick Loud.
It's Laude, so maybe it's Law Day, but I like Rick Loud. Yeah. I'm Rick Loud, and I host Rock 108 in the morning.
Yeah, back for your drive-time commute, it's Rick Loud. We got a little quiet riot in POD coming your way. It's loud in the morning.
That's probably why he blew up Nashville. He's like, "I fucking hate Rick Loud. I hate him."
That's right. It's like this isn't a hair metal town, Rick Loud. It's a country town.
So Rick Loud told the Associated Press that he and Warner had chatted days before the bombing, and Loud asked, quote, "Is Santa going to bring you anything good for Christmas?" To which Anthony responded, "Oh yeah, Nashville and the world is never going to forget me."
Oh, God.
And the next sentence is incredible. Loud said he didn't think anything was strange about those comments. And that quote, "Nothing about this guy raised any red flags."
That's just Tony being Tony. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, he's fucking weird and says creepy shit all the time. But don't worry, he doesn't leave his house.
Right, yeah. It's just Tone Loc being fucking woke. You know what
I mean? Yeah, I just thought that was the fun. Like, and that grammatically is terrible. "Oh, yeah, Nashville and the world is never going to forget me."
Did he correct his grammar when he said that?
Yeah, he's like, "Wait, don't you mean that Nashville and also the world will never forget me?"
He's like, "Whatever, man."
Whatever, man. I'm going to blow.
I'm one step closer to the edge. You know the rest.
Loud said that he thought that Warner was referring to something good happening, perhaps related to his work in IT. Now, here's the thing. I've never worked IT, but I know people who've worked IT, and no one who's ever worked IT has done anything that Nashville and the world will never forget. You know, IT is just a very utilitarian job. Like, hey, this lady doesn't know how to turn this thing on her computer. Oh, I'm going to help you out. Done. Like, it's a very necessary role in society. But,
sure,
you know, you're not going to change the whole world during the regular course of your day as an IT guy. You're just not.
I mean, you're kind of greasing the wheels.
Yeah, and that's fine, you know. But
that's okay. It needs to happen.
Yeah, IT guys don't get into it trying to change the world, you know? They get into it because it's a good paying job and it's necessary for everybody. But I just love that he was like, I don't know, he said he was going to live forever. And I just figured it was because he was, going to show an old lady how to work her email.
Yeah. And he was probably just so high off his nuts. He was probably like, yeah, man, we're going to live forever. Tony, Rick, you're not hearing me. It's like, no, I'm not hearing you, man. I'm feeling you, brother. Like,
vibing. Tony, you're crazy.
Tony's crazy. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
And I love this. Meanwhile, another neighbor who declined to identify herself told the Daily Beast that a peacock had been roaming around their neighborhood in the past few months. At one point, Warner came out of his house to feed the peacock, and then this is her quote. My daughter was telling me that he was like, I want this peacock, the neighbor said.
Wait, say that again one more time.
Okay, so there's a peacock in their neighborhood, and he came out of his house, and that was notable because he didn't, he was like kind of a hermit. He didn't leave his house. And then this lady's daughter said that he came out of the house, gave some, I guess, bread or corn or something to the bird, and then was just like, I want a peacock, and then just went inside.
I gotta say though, I kind of agree with him on that. Like every time I see an animal that I don't normally see, I'm like, oh, I want a guinea pig, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna go buy a guinea pig. Honestly, kind of feel bad for the person who has to take care of it after a while, but I'm just like, I want one of those.
Yeah, well, we famously had a peacock in our backyard comedy show over in Echo Park or MacArthur Park. So
no shit, you guys had one?
Yeah, the neighbors that lived underneath Joe Raines and Wes Van Horn, they had a peacock just in the backyard, and it would just wander around during the show. And those fuckers are mean and they are loud. They're not a fun bird to have around. They're really not, especially in the spring. Because I didn't really take this in consideration until I was around a peacock for a protracted amount of time. But it doesn't always have the huge feathers. That's just for mating season. So in the spring is when it has those massive plumage, and then they all fall out, and you just have a bajillion of those giant feathers everywhere. And when they
suck, they're mean.
And when they have the plumage, they're horny and they're fucking pissed. So it's just not a good look. So FBI agents were seen raiding Warner's home in Antioch, Tennessee on Saturday as DailyMail.com exclusively revealed that he had given $160,000 of property away for free to a 29-year-old Los Angeles woman named Michelle Swing in a deed dated November 25th.
Yeah, this part of it's fucking weird, man.
Yeah, so he gave, and actually it's since come out, like while I was writing this, they actually found out another property that he gave her. So he ended up giving her like $600,000 about worth of property for some reason. Swing told Daily Mail that she was unaware that Warner, a self-employed IT contractor, had signed the $160,000 home over to her. But a new report claims that Warner informed Swing of the transfer in a letter last month, and this is so crazy. Again, it's like, yo, this is kind of a red flag. This is the quote that they've released from the letter. Quote, "The attic has plywood and lighting. Take a look. The basement, it's not normal. Take a look. Woof, woof, Julio."
I mean, it's like he really did tell it. I mean, he goddamn got on a loudspeaker like minutes before the bomb went off and was like, I'm doing it now. I'm doing it. And like everyone was just like, yeah, whatever.
Whatever. Woof, woof, Julio.
It's a hoax. He's a hoax.
And nobody has explained, no one has been able to explain what this letter means. It just, the attic has plywood. Take a look. The basement's not normal. Take a look. Woof, woof, Julio. Like, that is unreal. I love that.
I use that expression too.
Yeah, in the article, I cut the part out where they were like, authorities have been unable to figure out who Julio is. You're like, yeah, buddy, I could have told you, no one will ever know who Julio is.
It's the royal Julio. You know what I mean? It's
In the letter, Warner also shared that he intended to travel on Christmas Eve to spend a few weeks in the woods with his dogs. The Sun reported that police believe that Warner may have had a relationship with Swing's mother at some point, and the outlet said that Swing told investigators Swing told investigators that she last spoke to Warner a week before Thanksgiving and that she had never met him in person. So that is just a really strange part of it, that this random lady in LA who he maybe had sex with her mom at some point in the 80s or whatever, and now he's just giving her the farm, literally.
Well, so wait, they didn't keep in contact?
Apparently, that's what she's saying, but they've already proven that she wasn't telling the truth when she was like, "Oh, I don't know how I got this property." They were like, "No, it's documented. He deeded it to you. You had to have agreed to it, at least in writing."
This is more fuel for like the whole like, what did she know? What did she tell him?
Oh, totally. Yeah. So it's who's Julio? Tell us. We demand to know.
Yeah, does Julio? Yeah, woof woof Julio. And what is that code? Is that Russian code?
It sounds like a good. I'd listen to a song called "Woof Woof Julio."
Woof Woof Julio. Woof Woof Julio sounds like a Texarkana band from like the 80s or some shit like that.
Yeah. They'd open up for like new
Los Lobos or something. Yeah,
Los Lobos or the Jayhawks or something.
And the Jayhawks, yeah.
Yeah, Jason and the Scorchers. There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
I was trying to pull one. So anyway, take care, everybody who's listening in Nashville,
Absolutely, yeah, man.
It's like I said, it's one of those weird things where you're like, it's not good that it happened, but it's good that no one died except for the guy. And so it's kind of like, well, sorry about the hole in your street, y'all. World keeps moving.
It was one of those things where like, it's immediately horrifying, obviously. And then you see that video and it's even scarier. And then you realize no one died except the guy. And the most happened is like AT&T shit got, and everyone I've talked to from Nashville's fine. So yeah, now it's just endlessly fascinating and proof that you need to take social media away from the booms.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna keep tracking this story because obviously this is so far up my alley as far as just like, all right, what was this weird man thinking? But I can't help but shake the feeling that it's gonna end up being like the guy who tried to drive the train into the boat, where it's just gonna disappear. Like people are gonna be like, I don't know, shit's weird.
Can I attempt to coin a new term now?
Yeah.
It's for baby boomers who have become completely infused with paranoia due to being quarantined and shit from YouTube and Facebook. Doomer boomers.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, yeah.
You heard it here first.
The baby doomers.
The baby doomers. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, this guy, his mugshot, by the way, he kind of weirdly has the same like. He doesn't look exactly like him, but he kind of if you squint your eyes a little bit, kind of looks like Johnny Cash a little bit.
Really? I'm looking it up right now. Anthony Warner.
Yeah.
I looked up Anthony Warner first, like he was the guy from Queer Eye. Let's see. Anthony Quinn Warner.
QAnon warrior.
Oh boy, yeah, he's got. Well, he's kind of got the guy. He looks like the guy from Seventh Heaven too, who was like a pedophile.
Oh Christ, yeah. His hair is definitely not Johnny Cash. His hair is definitely more, somebody from the Monkees or something. But
holy fuck, it just brings up more of like pictures of like that explosion. Good God, man, like that was such a huge goddamn explosion.
Yeah, it's right over near Printer's Alley, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.